The fifth pick in the NBA draft will be made by the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, that countdown to the NBA draft, it's now about 3.5 weeks away, where currently the Jazz do have that fifth, but also the 21st picks in the first round. A lot can happen, of course, between now and then. So to help us break this all down, we've called on our NBA expert, KSL Sports Utah Jazz insider, Ben Anderson, in the studio to look ahead. Now, Ben, first off, I know it's been in the past, few weeks. We should be burying this now, but there was that lottery letdown. We haven't talked to you about that since. Is 5 still a good pick, though? That's the question I think a lot of Jazz fans have.
Contextually, yes, 5's a good pick. Compared to number 1,
right?
Not so much. But when you've talked about where the Jazz were drafting at 9, 10 in the last few years, and then so many picks in the teens and 20s, yes, 5's a very good pick. And whoever the Jazz land is going to be the best prospect on the team. They should expect that with the 5th pick.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of those possibilities for the Jazz. Of course, I think we know Cooper Flagg's not going to be there, likely Dylan Harper, but after that, it could really go any direction. Who do you think is maybe the top guy on the Jazz board?
I would look at a name like Ace Bailey. If you're looking for a player who still has that star upside, maybe the type of person who can be the number 1 offensive player, number 1 scorer on the team, I think Ace Bailey is a guy who can do that. And you can look at his difficult shot making, and I think that's really what his sell is. You look at the playoffs now, Sam, and it's just guys making difficult shots over good defenses. That's how good the NBA has gotten now. And Ace Bailey at 6'7.5", maybe a little bit shorter than we had thought coming out of Rutgers, but the shot making is as good as you will see, and really better than any of those top 2 players that we mentioned already that are expected to go number 1 and 2 overall. So he's the type of player that has a chance to be a 20-point-per-game scorer, if not higher, if he really hits his potential. And I think that's where the excitement with Ace Bailey comes from.
Yeah, 6'10", you mentioned. He's young, too, right? So, and I guess most of these prospects at this point are, but youth means there's probably a higher ceiling there as well. All right, another intriguing prospect, I think, for the Jazz is VJ Edgecombe. Yeah,
VJ Edgecombe, a lot of fans probably locally saw him playing at Baylor in the Big 12, so he was at Provo playing against BYU and had a big game there. He is, without question, the best athlete in the draft, and that's really his draw. He's about 6'4", so close to 6'6" in shoes, and you get everything you expect from an athlete. He's super explosive. You look at where he takes off when he's going to the rim and attacking. He's really awesome in that sense. Now, his overall game offensively, it's going to be a work in progress. He's not like a Donovan Mitchell-type ball handler, if that's what fans are expecting. He's not going to be a point guard by any means. So he's mostly going to enter the NBA as an off-the-ball three-point shooter who uses his athleticism to attack and transition, put back dunks, things like that. If the other things come along on the offensive side of the ball, he does have that star potential. But the physical tools are super impressive.
So when we talk about that number 5 pick, and we mentioned, it's not the number 1, but there's still great options here. Is there a chance the Jazz move off the pick? Maybe they try to move up a couple spots if they really like a guy, or do they even look at moving down?
Hey, we're talking about Danny Ainge here.
Right.
So if Danny Ainge is in charge, he's trying to make deals on draft night, and he's made some of the best draft trades ever. We look at Jason Tatum moving up to number 1, or moving back so Markelle Fultz could go to the 76ers, and he gets Tatum at 3, who's turned into a champion and a superstar. So Danny Ainge is going to do his due diligence, and we know he'd gone on, or he'd talked to Shams, he'd talked to Pat McAfee, and they'd said, even if the Jazz don't get number 1, they're going to try and get there. They can't move up to the number 1 pick. Right. I'm going to burst Jazz fans' bubble. But the Spurs at 2, maybe you can get up that high. 3 and 4, the question becomes, how much are you willing to give up? Because we're not going to know who's going to be on the board at 5 until draft night. This isn't going to be the type of draft where lockdown, we know who 3, 4 go and who's going to be sitting there for the Jazz at 5. I think there's still going to be some mystery. So if I were in charge, I'm not sure I'd be willing to break the bank to move up 2 spots for a guy who may slip to me anyways.
Okay, but there's going to be a lot of options. All right. Ben's got a lot of Utah Jazz content that you can follow over at KSLSports.com. You can also listen to Ben daily, Jake and Ben on the KSL Sports Zone, 10 a.m. to noon. And we're going to have you back in studio again next week to break down some of these other possibilities with the Jazz and this pick.